There are currently only 4 Boon perks in Dead by Daylight, and I'm a little worried about them at the moment. We haven't gotten a new Boon perk in over a year since the release of Yoichi in March 2022. The current state of Boons is less than desirable, for sure. Why is that? Well, that's what I'd like to discuss today. Boons were very clearly made as support perks. It's obvious when you look at how they work. One person spends time finding and blessing a totem in order to give buffs to you and the entire team. Upon initial PTB release, boons were nothing short of problematic, especially on small maps with totems that were close to each other. It was possible to heal people with Circle of Healing faster than a killer could swing their weapon, which is of course broken. Some changes were made to boons, making all boon perks not be able to stack their effects when overlapping. At the time, this really only applied to Circle of Healing, but this was definitely a good change, not only because of the ability to cheese, but also for simplicity and balancing sake. So, as of October 2021, we had 2 boon perks, both incredibly strong. Circle of Healing was at its peak, and was the beginning of the self-heal meta, being essentially given infinite medkits as long as you were in the boon's 24-meter range. And the ability to hide your scratch marks and auras with Shadow Step is something that is quite strong, especially for your whole team within a 24-meter range, which is a good size for the ability. I will say, I think that to this day, Shadow Step has to be one of the most underrated and underutilized perks in the entire game. It is perfect, exactly where it is, and it should not be changed, and hey, thankfully it has not. However, I think that behavior lacked some confidence with boons. Upon Hag's release, essentially the killer version of Michaela, the killer who introduced hex totems, all of her perks were hexes. They had varying degrees of utility, sure, but behavior made sure to do everything they could with the opportunity hex perks provided. But with Michaela, only 2 of her 3 perks were boon related. Her other perk, Clairvoyance, completely countered her 2 other perks until recently. Sure, I'd say it fits her abilities as a character who's a witch, but I think it's fair to say that the gameplay of her perks all flowing together should have been more important than them being lore accurate. But I digress. In the next chapter, we've got Jonah's boon, Exponential, which I've always wanted an opportunity to talk about. This perk is not nearly as good as everyone acted like it was upon release. I remember everyone losing their mind, saying this perk would kill slugging, that it was OP, that it needed to be nerfed, blah blah blah. How often do you see this perk? That is exactly what I thought. You will see this perk once in a blue moon along with a Midwitch offering and everybody bringing flip-flop. And even then, how effective is that? Let's look at Unbreakable, a perk that lets you pick yourself up from the ground with 0 requirement. Compare this to Exponential. You get a similar benefit, but not only do you have to find a totem, spend 16 seconds blessing the totem, and then either A, get down in the boon radius and not get picked up, or B, get down, not get picked up, crawl over to the boon radius, and then recover for 16 seconds. If you're not already in or near the boon area when you get down, this perk does
nothing. You serve 0 purpose.
You could argue that in certain situations, Exponential is better than Unbreakable. And, on paper, yes, Exponential does take more effort to get the benefits of the perk, but the benefits are better than Unbreakable. You recover twice as fast instead of 35% faster, and can get up as many times as you want. You'd think that the perk couldn't possibly be bad in that case. Let's compare the 2 even further. Exponential lets you recover in 16 seconds, but has the cons I mentioned previously. Unbreakable takes only 8 more seconds to recover, with 0 setup required. If you do get slugged, the 8 seconds is not going to make a difference the majority of the time. The killer will either commit to another chase and you'll have enough time to get up with Unbreakable, or they'll just hit a survivor and come back before 16 seconds would have passed with Unbreakable. The benefit of being able to recover multiple times without help seems nice, but unless the killer is twins or relies extremely heavily on slugging, chances are you're not going to even get the chance to recover from the ground multiple times, especially with Exponential's range limit. Anyways, after the swing and a miss that was Exponential, we got yet another boon perk with our next chapter release, Yoichi's Dark Theory. This is the worst boon yet. I love haste perks. I find them to be very fun, because as proven by our current meta, they can enable a player to completely change the course of a match on either side with just an incredibly small buff to their speed. But the thing is, the tiny speed boost, along with the setup required also having such a pitiful range, makes this perk nearly useless even before made for this. It's a similar situation to Exponential, except this time there wasn't much of a viable alternative at the time of release if you wanted to have a general boost to your running speed. This might make you think it was more popular until recently, but nobody used this perk more than a week after the Ringu chapter released. And that is the last Boon perk that's released. A total of 36 Survivor perks have released since then, and not one has been a boon. Boons other than Circle of Healing have remained completely unchanged since the release as well. It's not like there isn't more things Behavior could do with Boon perks, even if they wanted to essentially copy and paste existing perks and make them boons as they seem to with their first attempts. Not to mention, there's definitely been Survivors released since then that would have made sense thematically to have boons. The fact that Hattie, someone who has supernatural powers, and Vittorio, a scholar who literally has a perk detailing his quote-unquote arcane abilities, don't even have one boon baffles me, especially with how much Behavior seemed to have pushed boons at first. We had 3 Survivors in a row that had a boon perk, and now Behavior no longer seems to care about them anymore. Did the developers only have a few ideas for boons and then just ran out of steam? Are they simply prioritizing other perk ideas over boons? Well, while I of course have no insight towards what's going on behind the curtain at Behavior, here's my take on it. When Circle of Healing released, the community went absolutely wild. Most killers were threatening to leave the game, and I mean, we all know they didn't, but the point is, the community was pissed. I'd consider this to be the killer's equivalent to Dead Hard's initial nerf in terms of how upset one side of the community was. Everyone cried that boons were OP, but the thing was, boons, as a concept, were never the problem. Circle of Healing was. So, the perk got hit with nerf after nerf until the self-healing was completely removed. I think what Behavior saw was that. Boons came out, and this made people angry. They likely had plans to make new boon perks after Yoichi, but because of the initial reception of them, they quietly swept boons under the rug and we are where we are today. What's weird, however, is this sentiment isn't completely true. Behavior wants us to use the boon perks present. If they truly did not care about boons anymore, why have Overzealous and Clairvoyance recently been updated to include boons? These changes, while nice for sure, do somewhat come off as misguided. Yes, these perks synergizing with boons do make boons in general more appealing, but the thing is, I consider only half the boon perks that exist to even have a chance at being in somebody's loadout. What's the point of boon perks when a whopping total of 2 are relevant almost 2 years after release? So, because of the issues Exponential and Dark Theory face, I'd like to propose changes for both of these perks. To start, I don't think what Exponential provides is necessarily bad. The main problem is that what it provides doesn't always give value and has better alternatives. To change this, I think that the numbers of the perk are fine, but it could use some additional effects. For example, I think adding the ability to recover while crawling and to crawl twice as fast could make this perk a good choice for survivors. Unbreakable and Tenacity is a common synergy, but requires 2 perk slots. With this change to Exponential, you could get the benefits of both perks for the cost of 1 perk slot, which could be appealing. I do still feel like this could use something else, but I'm not sure exactly what could be added or changed to make it even better. If you have any ideas, please leave a comment though, as I would love to hear it. Dark Theory has a much more obvious solution though. Just add 1 to the haste percentage. Yeah, really. This hypothetical change exists in a world where Made for This doesn't do the same thing for free, which may sound like cheating, but I think most of us can agree that the perk shouldn't exist in its current state. As has been proven by Made for This, 3% haste is a powerful effect, and I feel like it would be strong, but balanced to have this effect granted after setting up a boon. Similar to Shadow Step, which also requires the player to be chased in the radius in order to benefit, it has the same risk, that being that the boon is near the affected player, and is more likely to be revealed and snuffed. So, yeah. Boons aren't in the best spot right now. Half of them aren't even viable, and the half that is hardly gets used anymore. Some may argue that boons are a broken concept, but I would disagree. I think that creating secondary objectives for survivors is a good idea, as it's something that's been asked for years. However, I think Behavior's answer with boons hasn't been executed the best. Time will tell what will happen to boons, and hey, I'm sure we'll get a new one sooner than later, right? Hey there, I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching. I've been thinking about this for a while, eagerly awaiting the release of a new boon every chapter, only to not get any, and I thought it'd be fun to make a video about it. Again, I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you in the next video.